Have you encountered a Kapre? The sinister origin of the haunted tree-dwelling giant exposed. The light drained from the sky as Sarah Jacobs noticed the children's laughter fade into uneasy whispers. Around them, the woods loomed ominously, branches moving like skeletal fingers against the vibrant autumn leaves. Just yesterday, Maplewood had seemed like a peaceful haven for her and her two kids, Ethan and Lily. Now dark shadows stretched dangerously close, and she could almost hear the sinister rustling of the trees. The syrupy words of local folklore echoed in her head. Have you heard of the Kapre? The beast of the forest, its eyes like fiery coals, said to guard the woods but also take lives in its grip. As twilight descended, Sarah tucked Ethan and Lily into bed, their giggles piercing the suffocating night. Soon enough, their giggles transformed into hesitant whispers about the towering Kapre, with its wide grin and hulking body, lurking just beyond the threshold of their new home. Her children spun tales filled with delight and dread, but she felt a chill in her bones, urging her to join them in their innocent fear. No mother should have to combat such terror. Suddenly, her heart raced as she recalled the strange markings she'd seen carved into the trees bordering their backyard. Unnerving symbols etched deep into bark, ancient and twisted, sending panic crashing against her chest. With every shift of the branches, a low whisper echoed. Sarah, you shouldn't be here. Before she could shake it off, Sarah heard the front door creak, the soft patter of Ethan's feet tiptoeing toward the darkness. Ethan, she screamed, her voice laced with dread. And just like that, he was gone, lost to the forest that surrounded their home. Racing into the dark, her pulse hammering, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The glowing eyes of the Kapre seemed to follow her, lurking just beyond her vision. The familiar suburban street morphed into a nightmare, each shadow teeming with fear. Please, she pleaded into the darkness. Ethan, as her voice echoed into the void, frantic thoughts consumed her. Where was her son? What did he see out there? The panic spread within her like a fire. Salty tears streamed down her face as she stumbled deeper into the menacing woods. In the days that followed, Sarah sought answers wherever she could. The suffocating silence of Maplewood crushed her spirit, and soon she found herself standing outside Ms. Allen's worn-down house. You've got to help me, she begged, desperation clinging to her like a lifeline. Ms. Allen's eyes darkened with unspoken memories. Don't dredge up the past, dear, she muttered, her voice trembling with foreboding. Those whispers you hear have roots you don't want to know. But Sarah wouldn't be deterred. The threads of the town's past unraveled the more she searched. Disappearances, echoes of the Kapre legend swirling like ghosts in Maplewood's shadows. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined, Sarah plunged deeper into the twisted reality of the forest. Each breath felt tainted with the stench of betrayal and fear. Would she confront the Kapre or worse? As she stepped forward, a thick fog enveloped her, cradling her in an icy embrace. The air thickened with vengeful whispers, and her heart raced as the creature revealed itself, a monstrous reflection of the darkness lurking in the town. Stand your ground, she cried, terror coursing through her veins. The forest trembled, revealing the horrifying truths that bound her to Maplewood. The hunt had only just begun. Would she find her children before the shadows consumed her? In the distance, the rustling of leaves became frantic, truth waiting just beyond her reach, leaving her to question. If she fought the Kapre and the unseen forces at play, who would remain standing when the night finally fell? Sarah's heart pounded like an angry drum as she pushed deeper into the darkness of the forest. Each step felt like a descent into hell, the ground beneath her turning soft and treacherous. The fog thickened around her like a shroud, muffling sounds and twisting her sense of direction. It was hard to breathe. Ethan, she called again, her voice barely a whisper against the oppressive silence. Each echo felt like a mocking specter, teasing her with the futility of her search. Frantic thoughts raced through her mind. What if he was hurt? Or worse? The dread gripped her tighter, causing her palms to sweat and her legs to shake. She remembered the stories her children used to share, eyes wide with wonder, their giggles turned into a chorus of frightful tales. About the Kapre, who lured children away with promises of adventure, only to feast on their fears. The night was alive with the possibility of dread. Just as she was about to turn back, a flicker of movement caught her eye. There, just in the periphery, was a figure. Her breath hitched. A child? The silhouette was too small, too shadowy to be anything but a ghost of her imagination. But then it moved again, darting between trees as if it knew she was watching. "Ethan," she shouted, her voice breaking. "Is that you?" The figure stilled, and for a heartbeat, the world fell silent. Then it swayed cautiously, almost as if to taunt her. The chill in the air thickened, wrapping itself around her throat like a noose. She took a step toward it, her heart racing with hope and fear. "Please, I just want you to come home," she pleaded, but the figure vanished into the fog. Desperation clawed at her chest as she chased after it, plunging farther into the trees. Branches snagged at her clothes, tearing at her resolve, but she pressed on, yearning to grasp the very being she had brought into this world. The whispering increased, wrapping around her like a serpent ready to strike. "You're too late, Sarah. You shouldn't have come here," it hissed, a voice both familiar and chillingly foreign. It was the forest, the Kapre speaking through the rustling leaves and creaking limbs. Panic surged through her as she realized how deep into the woods she had gone. Shadows danced menacingly, and twisted forms began to emerge among the trees. Faces, hollow and lifeless, glared at her from the darkness. Memories of children lost, their eyes wide in terror, flickered in her mind. The realization sank like a stone in her gut. "Mom!" A familiar voice broke through the darkness, soft and pleading. "Ethan." She spun around, chasing the sound. "Ethan." But instead of him, she found an empty clearing bathed in unnatural moonlight, shimmering like a spotlight for the unseen horrors lurking nearby. The laughter from earlier was gone, only silence remained. The ground beneath her felt alive, pulsating. And then, right in front of her, the Kapre appeared, towering and grotesque, eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Its grin split its face, drawing closer as Sarah stumbled back, a icy dread coursing through her veins. "You've come to play," it growled, the whisper of smoke curling around its words. But in the depths of its gaze, she swore she could see something else, a flicker of recognition, the echo of her child's laughter. "Let him go," she screamed, her voice raw. "I'll do anything." The creature paused, studying her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "Anything?" it echoed, its wicked grin widening. "Then you must join the dance." With that, the forest erupted in a cacophony of sound, the wild laughter of children and the grotesque murmurings of the Kapre rising to a crescendo. Sarah's blood ran cold. Was this the choice she made? To save her son, or to step into the darkness with him? As the ground trembled beneath her feet, Sarah felt the pull of the abyss, the horrifying truth emerging from the shadows. Whatever hope she harbored could mean their destruction. "Sarah, join us," the whispering continued, dragging her ever closer to the edge of the unknown. And in that harrowing moment, one question fled into the night. How far was she willing to fall to save her children? The air thickened with anticipation, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. The Kapre's monstrous form loomed closer, each step sending ripples of dread through Sarah's heart. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling stillness that echoed in her mind. "You don't understand," she gasped, her voice trembling. "You can't have him." But the Kapre only chuckled, a low, rattling sound that reverberated through the clearing. "You see, dear Sarah, what is lost in this forest can never truly be found. Your son, he belongs to the night now." Panic surged within her. This wasn't a game. It was a trap laced with darkness and despair. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, but the thought of leaving Ethan behind paralyzed her. "Please!" she cried, but her voice was swallowed by the trees, leaving her feeling small and insignificant against the vastness of the woods. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her. Roots slithered out from the soil, wrapping around her ankles like cold fingers. "Join the dance, Sarah," the copper urged, its voice a silk of venom, thick and enticing. Images flashed in her mind: Ethan's laugh, his tiny hands in hers, the safety of their home. The copper's eyes glinted as if it fed off her memories, absorbing her grief, her fear, her love, and twisting them into something grotesque. "You cannot save him if you do not let go," it hissed, its breath hot with the stench of ash and smoke. The forest seemed to close in around her, branches extending like claws, threatening to pull her into the very heart of its darkness. With a scream born of desperation, she tugged at her legs, fighting against the roots. "Ethan, it's time to come home." For a moment, her voice carried through the woods, a desperate plea that hung in the air like a ghost. The silence that followed was deafening, and then "Mom?" That single word sliced through the fog, a beacon of hope. She turned, and there he was. Ethan stood just beyond the shadows, illuminated by a soft, otherworldly light that flickered like a candle. His eyes glowed with innocence, but there was something deep within them, a hint of fear. "Mommy!" he shouted, and she felt the warmth of his love surge through her. "Ethan!" she shouted back, but just as she took a step toward him, the copper lunged forward. "Join us!" it shrieked, its claws stretching out, beckoning her into the depths of its abyss. The roots tightened, pulling her down into the earth, but her heart was set on one thing: "Ethan, come to me." For a fleeting moment, she glimpsed Ethan's face change, confusion mingled with terror. The copper's presence darkened around them, illuminating the sinister truths of the forest. Instinctively, she reached out, but a powerful gust of wind yanked her back as a blinding light enveloped the clearing. Then, everything went quiet. The roots released her, and she fell, sprawling onto the forest floor. The light dimmed, and she blinked, breathless. The copper stood where it had been, now diminished, a mere whisper of shadow, its grin fading. It seemed caught between dimensions. With a last burst of strength, Sarah climbed to her feet, sprinting toward Ethan, but just as she reached him, darkness erupted around them. "Mom!" A deep, echoing laugh reverberated through the trees. The copper's voice now resonated like an eternal chorus, each note turning her blood to ice. "Your journey has only just begun, Sarah. The darkness claims all." As the woods closed in around them, her grasp on Ethan tightened, but the shadows grew heavier, threatening to swallow them whole. "Run!" she screamed, pulling him with her, but the forest turned to a maze, paths twisting chaotically around them. Every direction seemed to lead deeper into despair. Would they escape, or was this merely the beginning of their nightmare? The oppressive darkness closed in, and Sarah realized one chilling fact: the forest was alive, and it wouldn't let them go without a fight. Their feet pounded against the damp earth, desperately seeking a path, but the trees twisted and clutched, forcing them further away from safety. Each step felt like they were running deeper into a pit of night, the shadows clawing at their heels, as if trying to drag them back into the wilderness of despair. "Mom, I'm scared," Ethan gasped, his breath hot with panic. His little hand felt fragile in hers, but she couldn't afford to look back. The laughter of the copper echoed in her mind, a mocking melody of despair that frayed her nerves. "I know, baby, just hold on," she cried, trying to sound braver than she felt. But deep inside, her heart raced with dread. The path, the copper had twisted it all into a nightmare where the end remained obscured, where salvation was an illusion. Suddenly, Ethan let go of her hand. "Mom!" he shouted, but she was already losing sight of the flicker of his form as it disappeared behind a thick veil of mist. Terror gripped Sarah's chest. What had taken her son? "Ethan!" she screamed, spinning around, the trees looming darkly like silent sentinels. In that split second, the forest unfolded before her. A monstrous face formed by the gnarled branches, twisted and grotesque, a nest of despair. "You shouldn't have come here, Sarah," it seemed to whisper, its breath cold, wrapping around her like a shroud. "You should have forgotten your precious child." "No," she shouted, throwing herself forward. She barely recognized her own voice, raw and filled with fury. She needed to find him, needed to sever the ties that the forest had woven around them. The ground shook, and the roots beneath her began to stir again, writhing as if they were alive. As she stumbled forward, she could feel the cold seep into her skin, grasping at her heart. "Ethan," she called again, desperation clawing at her throat, her heart pounding like a war drum. Around her, the mist thickened, cocooning her in a pall of dread. But then a sound, that familiar laughter, sweet and pure yet tinged with sorrow, echoed through the trees. "Mom, help me, Ethan," she gasped, the sound an arrow of hope. Instinctively, she charged toward the sound, her mind racing, the world around her blurting with shadows. "Mommy!" His voice grew stronger. It was coming from the heart of the forest. Each step felt heavier, as if the air was thick with despair, pressing against her lungs. "Ethan, I'm coming." She could feel the wind coil around her like a serpent, pulling her away even as she pressed on. But the laughter morphed, and suddenly it wasn't just Ethan anymore. The voices of children rang through the night like a chorus trapped in a fleeting echo, shadows of those who had been lost before. "Join us, Sarah," they pleaded, their tiny voices blending with the dark magic that engulfed the woods. Each note dug into her fear, her heart racing against the temptation to respond, to let the darkness take her. "No," she screamed, trying to drown them out, forcing one foot in front of the other. The laughter intensified, swirling around her head, making it hard to think. She could almost see the glimmers of figures, blurred in the gloom, arms reaching out. A part of her fought against the pull, the whispers that promised comfort among the lost. Then, amidst the cacophony of voices, a sudden silence. Sarah, a voice, familiar yet warped, floated on the wind. "Help us." Her breath stalled. Was that truly Ethan? "Ethan," she cried, urgency flooding her veins. The branches bent low as if listening to her. "Where are you?" Just then, out of the mist, a figure emerged, glowing in the darkness. It was him, but his demeanor was different, his eyes glimmering with a haunting light. "Mommy," his voice was soft, almost airy, as if he was slipping further away. "You need to let go." Panic surged once more. "No, I want to lose you." But a realization crept into her mind: the Kapre was right. What was lost could never truly be found. As the darkness shifted again, encroaching on them both, Sarah felt the chilling presence wrap around them like a snare. She recognized then the true depths of her fight. It wasn't just for Ethan's safety, but for her very soul. "Come to me," she shouted once more, wrestling against the dark tide that threatened to engulf them. With the forest shifting around them, she knew the next choice was the hardest, yet a choice shaped by love and loss. Would she be brave enough to face the Kapre again, to fight for her son, even if it meant sacrificing a piece of herself? "Mommy." With renewed determination, she locked eyes with Ethan. What lay ahead would reshape everything if they could find a way out of the forest alive. But the end was shrouded in shadow. Would they emerge as survivors, or was the darkness ready to claim another victim? "Mommy." The word echoed like a plea caught in the wind, turning Sarah's blood to ice. Ethan's form flickered in and out of the dark mist, a ghost struggling to be seen. Shadows danced around him, twisting like the gnarled roots of the trees that surrounded them. "Stay there. Don't move," Sarah shouted, fighting to anchor her voice against the rising tide of panic. But the darkness pulsed, vibrant and alive, as if it had a pulse all its own. It wrapped tighter around her as she took a tentative step forward. The moment she moved, Ethan's figure wavered, flickering as if caught in a faulty film reel. "Mommy, it's so cold." His voice trembled. "Hold on, Ethan. Just hang on tight." The weave of dread tightened its grip like a vice around her heart. Every pulse of the forest felt like the copper's laughter, mocking her every effort. She could see Ethan's expression twist, caught in both pain and a deep sorrow. Those bright, innocent eyes were glazing over. The ground shuddered beneath her feet. The roots erupted in splintered motions, clawing at her ankles. She stumbled back, clutching at a nearby tree for balance, its bark cold and wet as if weeping. The cold seeped through her skin, pulling her towards the underworld of the forest. Then, a rustling in the shadows pulled her attention. There were figures, dark shadows of children, their bodies bent like broken branches. Their eyes glowed with the dimness of lost hope. "Join us, Sarah," they chorused, their voices intertwining like a lullaby. "We can play forever." "No," the word burst from her lips, defending against the sweet temptation of oblivion. "I will find my son." The shadows drew closer, their hands outstretched, fingers like tendrils. "You will lose him, just come and join us." Her heart hammered in her chest, drowning out the whispers. She turned her focus back to Ethan, whose figure flickered again, shadows cascading over him. "Mommy!" As she stepped forward, the darkness surged. The roots erupted from the ground, snaking around her wrists, drawing her down. Panic clawed her throat. "Ethan, I'm coming." And then, darkness shot through her body, a freezing wave of despair, sending chills that rippled outwards. "Let go," Ethan's voice whispered, soft and eerie, as he shimmered in the distance. "You have to let me go." "No," she gasped, pulling against the roots that gripped her like an anchor. "I won't abandon you." But the shadows danced closer, their whispers becoming frenzied. "You don't understand, Sarah. This is the only way to stay together." With every breath, dread swirled around her, thick and suffocating. Ethan's face twisted into a mask of anguish. "Please, Mommy, you don't want to be a part of this." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she felt the darkness digging into her soul. It wound through her thoughts, drenching her mind in despair, offering sweet promises of rest and unity. But she clenched her fists, heart pounding. "I won't let you take me." The roots squeezed tighter, wrapping painfully around her. There was a radiant glow in Ethan's eyes, flickering uncertainly. "Fight, Mommy. You can't give in." In that moment, clarity surged through her. This was a test, a battle against the seductive whispers, and she needed to reclaim the light that flickered within her. Drawing a deep breath, she summoned every ounce of her strength. She stared into the swirling shadows, heart racing with determination. "You won't take us. We will break free." The laughter of the copper echoed, menacing and distant, as the forest seemed to shift again, warping and twisting. The mist thinned momentarily, revealing a path illuminated by a silvery light, the promise of refuge. "Ethan," she cried, ripping her wrists free from the grasping roots, propelled by a fierce love that focused her every thought. "We can escape." But even as she shouted, shadows began to coalesce around her, forming a barrier against the light. Each step felt weighted, the air became thick with darkness, and the heartbeat of the forest throbbed in her ears. "Mommy, I can't hold on much longer." The scrutiny of the copper felt suffocating, and she sensed its presence creeping in closer, hungry and eager to feast on despair. Breathless, Sarah pushed through with unyielding resolve, but the foreboding laughter echoed once more, a dreadful warning. "Will you sacrifice your soul to save him?" A flicker of doubt swelled within her heart. But it had to be sacrificed to save Ethan. With one final step, she lunged towards the light, her fate hanging in the balance, a choice that would determine the essence of their beings. Would love prevail, or were they destined to be consumed by shadows forever? The darkness roared in defiance, closing in as she reached. What would emerge from the veil of shadows? Would they find salvation or drown in the abyss? As Sarah lunged toward the light, time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat echoing like a thunderclap in the silence that surrounded her. The warmth beckoned, but the shadows lashed out, grasping her shoulders and pulling her back with a force that screamed betrayal. "Ethan," she cried, watching in horror as the glow around him flickered. his image blurring under the weight of the encroaching darkness. Tendrils of black mist wrapped around her limbs, icy fingers coiling like snakes with a life of their own. Panic surged through her. She couldn't let go. Not now. Not ever. Mommy, Ethan's voice faded, stretched thin as if being pulled into another realm. The shadows around him pulsed, threatening to devour his fragile form whole. Each moment felt like a claw digging deeper into her chest, squeezing out the breath she needed. Just beyond the mist, she could see the silvery light flickering like a candle caught in a storm. "No, fight," she shouted, the raw energy of desperation igniting her spirit. With sheer will, she clawed at the roots, her nails digging into the earth, trying to uproot the darkness that gripped her. They were not just roots. They felt alive, writhing and tightening like a net, ready to pull her into the abyss. She was being torn between the world she knew and the seductive whisper of eternal peace that came with surrender. "Ethan," she yelled again, forcing her eyes to stay focused on the dim light he emanated. If she could just reach him, maybe they could escape together. Suddenly, she felt warmth surge through her chest, a flicker of hope igniting. It was the memory of laughter shared, of bedtime stories and gentle hugs, and yes, even the mundane moments that were filled with love. "Fight for our love," she screamed, channeling everything into that mantra. The roots recoiled as if stung, and she felt a shift, something giving way beneath her. At that moment, the laughter of the copper echoed through the trees, a deep, sinister growl that slithered into her ears. "You cannot escape. You belong to this forest now. Embrace your fate and you shall find peace." Sarah gritted her teeth, defiance surging through her veins. "I choose my son over your lies." With a violent wrench, she tore her wrist free. The roots shriveled away, hissing like snakes underfoot. For a split second, she was weightless, suspended between the past and a heart-wrenching future. Then, she charged towards the light where Ethan stood, glowing brighter against the chaos behind her. With each step, the shadows thinned, retreating as her determination burned bright. "Mommy!" Ethan reached out, and she felt the warmth of his hand brushing against hers. The world around them shifted abruptly, and as their fingers connected, reality warped. They were thrust into a different landscape, a clearing devoid of shadows, drenched in muted sunlight. For the briefest moment, peace washed over her. The oppressive dread that had gripped them loosened its hold. "There's no safety in that place," a voice breathed, low and chilling. The Kapre's presence loomed just beyond the trees, spectral mist spiraling around twisted branches. "What does it want?" Sarah panted, holding Ethan tightly against her, heart racing. "The tree, it grows stronger with despair," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. "We must destroy it. But how?" Fear clawed at the back of her throat, reality settling like a heavy fog. The trees rumbled, sending shivers through the ground as the forest twisted, shadows narrowing in on the clearing once more. "Consider your options, Sarah. Your son's safety or your own survival." Desperation clashed against her will to protect her child. With dread creeping into her bones, she realized the copper hadn't given up, not yet. Time was running out, the darkness closing in again. "Ethan, what if it gets worse?" she whispered, terror tightening around her chest. "If we don't act now, we will lose everything." They exchanged a glance, fear and determination locking them together. What power did they still possess to seize victory from encroaching doom? What sacrifice might be necessary, and at what cost? Before she could ponder further, a chilling howl echoed through the trees, the Kapre's visage piercing through the mist, its hollow eyes fixed on them, the dark promise of retribution palpable in the air. In the fading light, shadows began to gather once more, and they realized the true battle was only just beginning. Ethan squeezed Sarah's hand tighter. The pressure of the shadows drew closer, their whispers curling around them like a fog until every breath felt heavy with dread. She could see the Kapre's twisted grin forming in the darkness, a leering void where a face should be, and the cold tendrils of fear slithered back up her spine. "Mommy, we have to move." Ethan's voice cracked under the mounting pressure. Sarah turned toward the trees lining the clearing, their branches clawing at the sky like gnarled fingers desperate for something, anything, to pull them back into the depths. She glanced back at Ethan, his eyes wide, sparkling with the remnants of light they had fought so hard for. "We can't stay here," she said, her voice shaking as much as her hands. "But where can we go?" Footsteps echoed through the clearing, heavy and deliberate, each thud a countdown. The Kapre's growl deepened, rumbling through the earth beneath their feet, vibrating through Sarah's chest. Its voice carved through the night, dripping with malice. "You cannot hide from me. You belong to me just like the others." Others? Sarah's heart sank. What had it meant by that? Then, almost instinctively, Sarah dropped to the ground, pulling Ethan down with her. The underbrush crunched and rustled as she fled toward a nearby thicket. Darkness enveloped them, and she held her breath, resisting the urge to look back. Ethan tugged on her shirt, panic darting across his small face. "The tree. We have to destroy the tree." "The tree?" She didn't understand. "But how?" "Mommy, please," feeds on our fear. The urgent plea shattered her moment of hesitation. Desperation surged within her, privy to a protective instinct that roared in her gut. Grabbing Ethan, she whispered fiercely into his ear, "We're going to distract it. Then we'll find a way to that tree. Can you do that?" Nods from Ethan were punctuated by a frightened whimper. The shadows began to shift, growing restless. Like a tide returning, they rolled forward, thick and undulating. "Now!" Sarah shouted, launching herself toward the edge of the clearing. She could see glimmers of silvery light dancing through the treetops, a beacon leading her away from the darkness. Felt alive, felt hopeful. Behind her, the Kapre howled, its voice weaving a terrifying warning. "You'll regret this defiance." The air crackled with anticipation, and with renewed resolve, Sarah sprinted through the underbrush, Ethan at her heels. She could almost feel the darkness curling around their ankles, trying to trip them, ensnare them. "Stay with me," she urged, every step pulling them closer to the edge of the tree line. Adrenaline surged, and they dove into the encroaching shadows of the trees. Branches whipped at them, sharp like fingers, and the air felt charged with peril. The glowing light now flickered behind like a haunting echo, urging them forward. "Mommy!" Ethan gasped, panting heavily as they slowed, trying to catch their breath in the sudden gloom. A flicker of light in the distance drew her attention, growing steadily. The whispers from the forest fading into something else, a quiet thrum that pulsed. "What's that?" Ethan's wide eyes fixated on the luminous spark breaking through the dense foliage. "I don't know, but we have to find out." They pressed on, the lights winking in and out, leading them deeper into the secret of the forest. But the moment was too serene. The world around them felt fragile. She could sense the shadows gathering again, something dark and unyielding lurking beyond the trees, waiting. And as they reached the light, the ground beneath them trembled, and a low growl resonated through the trunks. "Your journey into the light will end in blood. The Kapre is always watching." Sarah's heart raced as she clung to Ethan, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes upon them, shadows stirring like restless ghosts. And the roots, how strong could they be? What destiny awaited if they failed? A sudden silence blanketed the area. For a brief moment, they felt calm, but even in that stillness, she could feel something ticking in the dark. "Mommy, what if we're not alone?" Ethan whispered, almost a question, almost a confession, as shadows pooled at their feet. "Then we'll face it together, whatever it is," she whispered back, though her heart sank. Could they summon the strength to combat whatever horrors awaited just beyond the light? As they stepped closer, a chilling scene unfolded before their eyes. The spectral glow revealed not just refuge, but something far more sinister, a gathering of lost souls, trapped in the embrace of the Kapre's malicious hunger. "Ethan," she breathed, terror freezing her words. "Mommy!" He pulled her back. But it was too late. The Kapre's laughter cut through the night, warm and hollow. "Did you really think you had a choice?" Suddenly, the shadow closed in around them, and Sarah realized, in that split second, that their fight was far from over. What had they truly awakened in the heart of the forest? The shadow thickened around them, a shroud of malevolence seemingly drawn from the depths of nightmares. The lost souls clawed at the air, faces twisted in despair, eyes sunken with a hunger that mirrored their captors. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat as the reality sank in. They weren't just surrounded by shadows. They were enveloped in remnants of lives consumed. Each flicker of the ethereal light cast grotesque reflections of what had once been. "Mommy, we have to go back," Ethan squealed, his small voice trembling as his grip tightened on her hand. But retreat wasn't an option now. What lay behind them was a promise of torment, and what lay ahead was uncertain terror, but it was the unknown that flickered with potential, the banks of light that might offer hope. "We can't go back, Ethan. We must keep moving." The laughter of the Kapre echoed, rich with hunger. "You are drawn by the light, but it belongs to me. All hope is lost here." Every thrum in the earth resonated like a heartbeat, ominous and loud. The trapped souls swayed gently, their mournful wails unfurling sorrow like vines, twisting through the underbrush. Sarah felt their despair wrap around her, stifling her breath. Fighting against the urge to succumb to panic, she searched for the looming tree, its ominous presence looming at the edge of the spectral light. "Look," she pointed, a frantic exclamation. "The roots. If we can get to them, maybe we can stop it." Ethan's eyes darted toward the gnarled base of the ancient tree, its bark twisted in grotesque patterns, each knot resembling a face writhing in agony. An icy dread settled in Sarah's stomach. "But how, Mommy?" Ethan whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "By confronting our fear," she replied, forcing her voice to steady despite the clawing dread entwining her thoughts. With reluctant determination, they pressed toward the tree, a fortress shrouded in whispers. The specters reached out, their icy fingers grazing Sarah's arms as they passed. Their touch was a suffocating weight, threatening to pull her into the darkness of despair. Each step forward was a battle, the ground shifting beneath her feet as if the forest itself wished to reclaim them. Suddenly, the air thickened with a palpable anger, and the Kapre's growl bridged the distance, rumbling like thunder. "You think you can thwart me? You'll pay for your insolence." The ground trembled violently, and Sarah instinctively shielded Ethan with her body. She could feel the dark magic swirling around them, trying to pull them away from the roots, away from hope. "Mommy, look at the roots," Ethan screamed, pointing with wide eyes. They pulsated with a dark energy, like a living entity seeking release. Shadows twisted around it like serpents. "Do you see them? They're pulsing." Without command, she found her feet moving toward the roots, desperation threading through her veins. As she knelt down, she placed her hands against the rough bark, feeling the heartbeat of the forest echo through her palms. "Together, Ethan. We can do this." Ethan knelt beside her, his small hands joining hers. In that moment, a surge of energy rushed through them, a bond strengthened by fear and love, compassion and bravery. Yet the shadows pushed back, swirling around them, their anguished whispers rising to a cacophony. "Join us, join us, join us." With each agonizing word, Sarah's grip on reality wavered. The Kapre's laughter morphed into something else, a trembling mockery that made her insides churn. "You are weak," it roared. "Only despair remains." But within the chaos, the flickering light intensified, illuminating Ethan's fragile face. Determination etched across his brow. "We're not weak," he shouted, the conviction in his voice ringing out like a bell, clanging against the dark that as the power from the roots surged. The shadows around them momentarily faltered, as if caught in a wave of light. "We have to break the chain," Sarah yelled, feeling the life coursing through the ground, connecting them to those trapped souls. "We can free them." But just that thought sent an icy tendril of fear flickering back into her heart. Was it possible? "Mommy!" Ethan cried, and with that, a new voice emerged. A figure materialized slowly from the grove, silhouetted by the radiant light pulsing from the roots, a figure Sarah recognized, standing eerily still. "Ethan, Sarah, it's me," the figure called, reaching out with an expression veiled in shadow and eeriness. "What? No, she stammered, recoiling. This can't be real. No. Embrace the darkness, the Kapre whispered seductively, but she couldn't look away from the familiar face before her. Time stretched. Heartbeats echoed loud enough to drown out the Kapre's taunts. The figure stepped closer, a shimmering light coiling around them. Was this just another trick, another way to pull them deeper into a web of despair? Did she dare believe? Mommy, is it really her? Ethan questioned, confusion coloring his tone. The shadows squirmed around them, the figure's eyes shimmering with an intelligence. Was it hope, or another layer of deception? Who are you? Sarah demanded, the tremor of fear threading through her words. Come join us, the Kapre growled, and for a moment, the air vibrated with an unholy song of despair. As the shadows pressed in on them, Sarah's heart raced. Was this a moment of revelation or the dreadful end? How could she discern? Ethan, whatever happens, we stay together, she promised, even as the depth of the dark whispers twisted around her resolve. But as the figure reached out, the clarity warped. In an instant, Sarah felt like they were teetering on a precipice. Would they be reclaimed by the darkness? Or could they sever the ties that bound them to a fate worse than death? And within the thickening shadows, the Kapre's laughter clawed deeper. You really think you can win? Step closer, and your fates shall be sealed. The warmth of the light began to flicker and fade, just as the darkness surged forward, threatening to swallow them whole. A shiver crept up Sarah's spine as the figure before her shimmered, wavering like a mirage. She couldn't shake the feeling that the warmth emanating from it was merely a guise, a deceptive flame entwined with the malevolence that surrounded them. Mommy, it's really her, Ethan insisted, voice trembling, eyes wide with hope and fear. He reached out toward the figure, the innocence of a child clashing violently with the darkness encroaching around them. No, Ethan. Sarah pulled him back sharply, her heart pounding. The world fell silent for a heartbeat, and in that instant, she felt the shadows recoiling as if repulsed by her intervention. Stay back, Sarah barked, every fiber of her being screaming that this was wrong. The Kapre's laughter filled the void, a chilling harmony of despair rising sharply around them. But it's Mom. Ethan's voice was edged with desperation. We have to believe her. Torn between anguish and reason, Sarah felt the darkness constrict around her lungs. No, Ethan. We can't trust what this place shows us. The figure's face twisted momentarily, revealing a glimpse of torment. I'm here to save you, it cried, voice echoing with a haunting familiarity that sent a jolt through Sarah. It was her, yet not her. Something primal in her warned of the danger, a sickening instinct that urged her to tear away from the twisted shadow. Join us, join her, the Kapre intoned, words woven like silk but laced with venom. The shadows thickened, swirling like a vortex around them, drowning the flicker of light emanating from the ancient roots. Let it in, Sarah, the figure beckoned, her words laced with a honeyed assurance. You know this is what's best. We can rest now, no. Sarah yelled, clutching Ethan closer. This isn't her. It can't be. With a primal roar, the Kapre lunged, shadows pooling like liquid night. The air grew thick with the stench of decay, and spectral fingers stretched toward them with an insatiable hunger. Courage, Sarah cried, the urgency of the moment igniting a fiery resolve. We cannot let it win. Ethan nodded, though terror clung to him like the shadows lurking all around. Together, they braced against the suffocating grip of despair that clawed hungrily at their essence. Mommy, I'm scared, he whispered, his voice barely audible above the rising tumult. I know, baby, Sarah's heart shattered as she fought the rising tide of despair. But we're not alone together, we're stronger. Suddenly, the ground heaved violently, shaking under the weight of the dark magic. The roots beneath them trembled, and the shadows screamed, irritated by their defiance. A strange energy surged from the gnarled trunk, intertwining with the flickering light in a desperate battle against the encroaching shroud. Together, they shouted in unison, hands clasped tightly, drawing strength from each other as they drowned out the cacophony swirling around them. Sarah focused on that small pulse of light, envisioning the warmth against the chilling darkness. Ethan's resolve ignited a flame in her heart. "We will not let you take us," she roared, not only for herself but for all the lost souls that lingered, yearning for freedom. She channeled every ounce of love she felt for her son, every memory of joy, wrapping them around the roots like a shield. As if reacting to her command, the roots broke free from the earth, twisting and writhing like serpents. The blinding light surged forward, temporarily pushing back the shadows. The figure before them writhed and twisted, blurring. "No, this cannot be," the copper snarled, its laughter fading into a screech of rage. But then, that familiar face shattered completely, revealing ghastly truths lurking beneath darkness, decay, torment, all masked with the painful semblance of love. "Embrace what is true," it screamed, voice piercing through the chaos, but Sarah pushed every ounce of her strength against the haunting distortion. Just as clarity settled over her heart, another figure emerged from the shadows, a blurred silhouette twisting into focus, not her, but something far more sinister. Its eyes glinted, with an unearthly hunger, and dread crashed over Sarah like a tidal wave. What are you?" The figure elongated, morphing into a grotesque version of the familiar until it bore down on them with ferocity. "You've awakened me," it hissed, and the shadows trembled, eager to reclaim their prize. Panic washed over Sarah. In that moment, realization hit her like a brick wall. There was more at play here than she could fathom. Threads of history entwined with their present, desperate souls woven into the fabric of her very fears. "Ethan, hold on," she cried, determination surging anew. The roots pulsed with energy, a defiance that sparked hope within her. But as they fought, she couldn't shake the sensation of being watched. Other eyes lurked in the darkness, secrets buried beneath layers of shadows waiting to be unleashed. "Step closer, and you shall uncover the truth," the darkness taunted, coiling tighter. That voice echoed like a whisper from her worst nightmares, and just as she prepared for the worst, something deep within the shadows stirred, awakening far worse horrors than she had imagined. Could she unravel the web, or would she become another lost soul trapped in this waking nightmare? They were running out of time, the darkness closing in. Sarah's heart raced with a palpable urgency as she and Ethan braced against the suffocating pull of shadows threatening to swallow them whole. The grotesque figure of the copper loomed closely, its laughter echoing like a funeral dirge through the twisted branches. The air crackled with tension, each heartbeat counting down to an unknown fate. "No, we won't succumb. Not today," Sarah shouted, gathering the remnants of her will. She squeezed Ethan's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of his small fingers reminding her of the love they shared, the strength they possessed together as they faced the monstrous figure. The shadows pulsed and flickered like dying embers, feeding off the panic. "You think this will save you?" the copper hissed, eyes glowing with dark flames. "I can see your fears. I can taste despair." There was no comfort against the thrumming dread, but Sarah dug deep into her resolve. "Ethan, focus on me. We can do this." Her voice stirred a flicker of determination in Ethan's eyes, and she saw his grip tighten on hers. Together, they stepped forward, taking measured breaths, drawing strength from one another. Together, they cried, feeling the energy shift around them. The roots began to ripple beneath their feet, awakened by their unity. With a new surge of power, Sarah turned to face the encroaching darkness head-on. "You will not take us. We will not be lost." The words echoed with a defiance that blossomed into radiant light, illuminating the shadows infused with the memories of those it had consumed. The faces of children, lost souls yearning for freedom, appeared in the flickering light. "Help us," they whispered, their desperate cries merging with Sarah and Ethan's resolve that as if sensing the tide turning. The copper twisted in rage, lunging forward, trying to snuff out the spark of hope that threatened to shatter its grasp. "You will regret this," it thundered, shadow tendrils snaking towards them, desperate to reclaim its lost power. "Mommy!" Ethan cried out, eyes wide with both fear and unwavering trust. "No, Ethan, don't look away." Sarah's heart swelled with fierce determination as they stood side by side. She held his gaze, nodding fiercely. Remember our love. Remember the laughter. The joy. We are stronger together. The roots, sensing their resolve, began to pulse with light, fighting against the dark energy that sought to subdue them. With one last burst of strength, Sarah gathered every ounce of that love and defiance, reaching deep within herself. Now, she shouted, let us free them. The roots exploded upward in a radiant crescendo, shattering the darkness that threatened to overwhelm them. The copper screeched, its monstrous visage fracturing as the light surged forth, spilling like molten gold. Flashes of fear vanished into the air, chased away by an overwhelming tide of warmth and one powerful surge. Sarah threw her arms around Ethan, lifting him until they were both enveloped in a brilliant glow. We can escape. As the shadows dissolved in the wake of that light, she held onto Ethan tightly. With one final decisive breath, she prepared to leap forward towards the shimmering glow, and then they were flying, light pouring all around them, a whirlwind of hope breaking through the suffocating grip of the forest. When they landed, Sarah stumbled back, her breath heaving as she cradled Ethan tightly against her. They stood in a clearing, bathed in the warmth of daylight filtering through the trees now devoid of darkness. The oppressive dread dissipated, leaving only soft whispers of what had been to Ethan's laughter rang out, pure and joyful like music to her ears. We did it, Mommy. She looked down at him, tears streaming down her face, not of sadness but of relief. Yes, my brave boy, we did. Together, they turned away from the ominous woods, the forest that once threatened to consume them now a whisper behind them. They stepped into the sunlight, the shadows fading like a bad dream, leaving behind the echoes of fear that would no longer have power over them. And as they walked, hand in hand, a newfound hope blossomed in Sarah's heart. The night had been fierce, but they had faced it, and together, they had triumphed over the darkness. Let us go home, she said softly, squeezing Ethan's hand, filling him with promise and safety. For now, they were free, and somewhere, deep within the woods, the remnants of the copper and its haunting presence lay dimmed, swallowed by the power of love and resilience, a love that could conquer any shadow. But as they journeyed away, deep in the heart of Maplewood, the trees whispered, holding secrets still waiting to be unearthed. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You are a part of this journey, and your support means the world.